and welcome to episode 3 of the Dunkelgrün podcast. This is a podcast about knitting, textile crafts and fiber arts. My name is Anna and today is March 10th, Friday, and I'm coming to you from Zurich in Switzerland. So thank you very much for joining me today for this new episode. I have some cool things to share with you, some new things on the needles, some finished projects, also some spinning. I have a beautiful finished yarn to show you, and yeah, we will have a giveaway, our first giveaway. I would like to say a huge thank you because this week my YouTube channel has reached 500 subscribers. How is this even possible? So many people subscribing to my videos. Thank you so much. I am so happy that you like my videos, and that makes me even more motivated to produce more of them and show you what I am doing, because it's really fun to be a part of this community. So to celebrate this occasion, I have dyed a little bit of yarn to show you and to share with you, of course, for a giveaway. And it is this one. Of course, the color is dark green because the name of my podcast is Dunkelgrün, and you can see there are also some little bits of rust in it and some minty parts, and yeah. These are two 50-gram balls of sock yarn, and maybe I have to apologize because when I saw the 500 subscribers I wanted to dye immediately. But I didn't really have any, I had wool for dyeing, but only this wool I had for dyeing at home. So this yarn is Drops Fabel sock yarn, which I keep at home in sometimes as undyed yarn in order to use it for dyeing when I don't have any other yarn to dye. So also it has, because this is commercial yarn, there was a knot. So one of the two skeins has a knot. So in the end it is not even 2 skeins, it is 3 skeins. But anyway, it is beautiful, the colors are amazing and it fits to the podcast. And when I dyed it, I was thinking of you guys, of all of my subscribers, and so there is a lot of love for the knitting community stuck in this. So what do you have to do in order to win these 2 skeins? You have to join the Ravelry group, and there you will find a thread for the giveaway, for the 500 subscriber giveaway. And the prompt will be that you shall share with us your association with the color dark green, which is dunkelgrün in German. Now we can start with the program of the podcast, and let's start with some finished objects. The first finished object I would like to show you is my pair of socks. I call them Shipwreck Socks on Ravelry, and they are just some top-down vanilla socks, and it is my first time of doing an Afterthought Heel. Let me show you this corner up close. I think it turned out quite nicely. Let me show you the nicest one. No, they're all nice. So this is how it looks like, my first Afterthought Heel. I knit this using DPNs, 2.5 millimeter wooden DPNs. And of course the yarn, let's talk about the yarn, is wolff and schafe yarns dyed by Magdalena, who also lives in Switzerland and dyes beautiful yarns. You should check her out. In the paw base, and the colorway is called turquoise cave. So the contrasting color for the toes, heels and cuff I have dyed myself in order to match with these beautiful rusty speckles that are in the original yarn. And yeah, you might think that this is a self-striping yarn, but no, it isn't. This is actually just a variegated yarn that created these stripes by pooling. You can see it here. It's basically one spiral of this grey and a spiral of the turquoise color that is coming down, and mixed up with some speckles of rust. So this is really beautiful, I really like it, and I'm looking forward to wearing them. My next finished object is, of course, my shawl that I am wearing. This is the pattern by Susan Ashcroft, and it's called the Quaker Yarn Stretcher Boomerang, and here it is. It's just a knit on the bias crescent shaped kind of shawl, and I have knit this out of my own handspun yarn that I spun sometime more than a year ago. Yeah, more than a year ago. It is a very, very fine merino. It's 16 micron merino wool that I dyed in a pot, in a kettle, just using the primary colors of ashford as it dyes. And I just tossed the primary colors into the pot and let them mix and mingle the way they wanted, and yeah, of course it did not come out like this. Afterwards I had a roving which had all these colors in it, and then I took my hand carders and carded it into rolags, and these rolags I then sorted in a gradient and spun them up, and in the end I chain plied it. My finished yarn had 208 meters and 90 grams, which would be 227 yards. And this is not a lot for a shawl, obviously, so I was quite worried that this will be a baby shawl or like maybe for a kid, but I would have liked to keep it myself. But you can see how giant it has gotten. It is really my wingspan, which is 170 centimeters, or probably, because this is how tall I am. And yeah, I really like how it turned out. It's big, you can wrap it around the neck comfortably, and it is light, very light, and warm also. It's also a non-superwash wool, and of course it is terribly soft because it is 16 micron merino, so it's basically the fiber thickness of cashmere. So this is a really cool treat, and I think even though it is so nice, I will take it off now because it is warm. The sun is coming out. With this I would like to move on to works in progress. So on my needles we have another pair of socks, of course, because the first pair was off the needles, and this looks like this. It's these guys. This is a pair of socks for a gift for a man, so I thought these colors are appropriate. And actually it's my first time knitting 2 at a time socks, and yeah, I think I really like it. I have knitted sleeves of sweaters 2 at a time already several times. I basically do it every time I have to make sleeves now, because yeah, it's just so much faster to me, because I don't need to turn so much. I can just knit one row, and then you need to do the turning, so you kind of have only half of the turning than if you would do each one separately. The reason why I never did it for socks was that I didn't have small enough circular needles, because I usually in a DPN set, not a DPN set, in a interchangeable circular needle set, you don't get these small needles that you need for socks, so you need to buy them separately. And yeah, I am stash acquisitions, you can see they are not really coming up on my podcast very often. I don't buy many things, I try to use the things that I have. Also because I am in a country that is very small and is like a little tax island in Europe, so we have to pay import taxes from when we order things from outside of Switzerland. And so yeah, I don't order so many things, I am just used to that, to sometimes going with what I have. But now I have a pair of circular knitting needles with which I can knit 2 at a time socks, and it makes me happy. The yarn, you will want to know what is this yarn. So it is just some basic sock yarn out of a Swiss department store. It is called Alfa-Spotlight Superwash Citywool, and yeah, this is from the Swiss store Coop, for those of you who know it. And yeah, it says here on the label mitfechtli in German, and also it says it in Italian and in French, because all those languages are official languages in Switzerland. And what is that? It is a little bobbin. It's stuck inside the skin when you get it, and it's a little bobbin of reinforcement thread. This is used for reinforcing your heel of your sock. Or you can also use it to mend the sock in the end. And usually it comes dyed in the same color repeat as your sock yarn is, so you can match it up and nobody can tell that there is another thread in the heel. I think that is pretty nice, and I think I will do that. If they give that, then I do that. It's a very common thing for Swiss yarns to have that. I think in High German it would be called Beilaufgarn, because also in Austria I remember the yarns that were locally produced that you could get there, where my mom lives, they also have that inside. It's called Beilaufgarn and not Fechtli, but in English it would just be reinforcement thread. What else is on my needles? I have cast on my sweater. So I have been talking about this in the first episode because I wanted to knit a sweater out of malabrigo, arroyo, in, surprise surprise, my favorite colorway, pocion. And here is what I have so far. It is knitting up just the way I like it. This pattern is called Fall Flower by Vera, Sanon, and it was initially released, I think, in 2013 as a mystery knit-along. It does not have so many projects, which surprises me because I think it's a really nice pattern. Maybe it's the pictures that are not super nice, because there is not really an official pattern picture that I could insert here now. There are just the pictures of the people who made them, who took them on their balconies or on their backyards, and you know, nothing against that, but there is none of these fashion style picture taking, and then maybe this does not attract as many people as other patterns do. But it attracted me because the construction is very interesting, and this is what I was out for. I wanted to have a basic stockinette sweater with, maybe I have to show it this way around, so this here is the shoulder. It will be looking like a satin sleeve, and still it is knit top down seamlessly. So you cast on, maybe I'm not even sure if I'm able to tell you that again what I did, because honestly I was a bit tired when I started it and I didn't want to read all of the pattern. So I just started and I just did what the pattern said, and it worked out miraculously. I think that's also the thing in a mystery knit-along. It needs to work out without you knowing what's happening afterwards. So you cast on, and then in the back, and then you're knitting down a little bit on the back, doing some short rows for shaping, and then you stop. You put these stitches on hold, and then you go back to your cast on line, which was here, this wobbly bit here. It's very hard to show at this point. And then you pick up stitches here, and then you knit a front. And then you do the same thing on the other side. You knit the other side of the front. And then, when you have knitted a little bit, you go around, you pick up stitches from the edge between the front and the back. You get this back live stitches back onto the needles. It sounds terribly complicated, but it's extremely well explained in the pattern. And then you are ready to knit top down, just like a raglan in the end. But it looks like a satin sleeve, and it has also this seam here on the top. If you look on the inside, it looks a bit more seamed because you have these picked up stitches. I'm looking forward to it. I will also insert some reverse stockinette things under the arms and things like this. So yeah, the yarn I have shown off, this yarn in the first episode, is malabrigo, arroyo in the colorway pocion. And yeah, people are already laughing at me. Here's the second ball. I am alternating skeins. I'm a good girl. Laughing at me because I'm sharing this so much on Instagram. But yeah, it's just one of my most favorite colorways. Maybe we have to rename this podcast to the Pocion podcast. I don't know. So, I have shared something on Instagram this week that caused some questions, and people asked me if I could please share this on the podcast. Even though I am not using it now, but I will talk a little bit about it. So this is the pony knitting calculator. This is a tool that you can use to match your gauge with the gauge of a pattern. So let's say you are using a sport weight yarn and the pattern is using a fingering weight yarn, which is exactly what I am doing with my sweater that I just showed you. You have to adjust these wheels. So you have 3 wheels, one in the middle, one in the second one, and then the background here. And you can have, one is centimeters and one is rows and one is stitches. And you have to put them together so that, yeah, you can read off in the end how many rows you need to knit to get how many centimeters and how many stitches you need to cast on it in order to have how many centimeters. Why I am not using it is I think it is a pretty cool tool if you are doing it well, if you are doing the thing that it makes. But in my case, I had done my gauge swatch, and I use sport weight yarn, and the sweater is written for fingering weight yarn. So the gauge that I get with my sport weight yarn, the ratio between the rows and the stitches is the same as the ratio between the rows and the stitches that the pattern calls for. This means that I don't need to scale them separately. I can scale them like as a set because they have the same ratio. So what I did is I went down to size XX small so that I will end up with a small. And also the pattern calls for a 0 ease, and I like to have a little bit of ease, so when I knit this XX small it will maybe turn out a small to a medium, and for me that is then just fine, I hope. Let's see. I think it makes sense. But that's why I am not using the pony knitting calculator on that project, so I can still not really tell you if I really like to use it on a long-term basis. But this thing costs only €4, so it is not a huge investment to just try it out and see if you like that or not. That is almost it on my needles. Usually I have only 3 things that I am working on. And this year there is one thing that is always on my needles, and this is my blanket. Last time I showed this blanket to you, I was here, this was the last square that I made, and I have made this whole row, and I have added here also some 5 squares of the 5th row. So what I do here is I started with one row, the first row on the bottom, or now it is on the top from your view. I started this, made 16 squares in one row, and then I started the second row. And yeah, this is the width of the blanket in the end, and then I will just make rows until it is long enough. Yeah, and I have put some little stitch markers to mark the ends of the month so that I know that I am on track, and I am exactly on track. On track with keeping my goal, which is making 1 square per day. So I am on track today. If I don't knit a square tomorrow, then I am not on track anymore. So this is how tight it is at the moment, but I'm confident. My next segment is spinning. As you have probably seen on Instagram already, if you follow me, I have finished plying and spinning and plying my malabrigo noob in the colorway pocion. So this is a 100% merino yarn, and I spun it rather fine Then I wound it into a center pull ball using my ball winder, and I plied together the beginning and the end in order to create a 2-ply yarn. It turned out pretty fine, I have to say. It is 427 meters or 467 yards on 100 gram skein. So quite a good yardage. I think it will turn into a shawl, and I think, yeah, this will be pretty interesting because it is a pretty neutral color from far away, but when you get closer, it is full of these interesting variation of color, and it will probably knit up slightly striped. Yeah, I like it. The next thing I will put on my wheel is a languishing spinning whip that I have started last year during summer, and it is my project Handspun Socks. So I would like to spin some yarn for knitting socks, and for this I have bought a fiber that is a typical sock yarn fiber. It is a 25% nylon and 75% wool superwash, and this I have dyed it myself last year, and these fantastic colors. And then my plan was to spin it up and do a 4-ply cable plied yarn. And how to do that I found in a book called The Spinner's Book of Yarn Design by Sarah Anderson. This is a really cool book. So this is The Spinner's Book of Yarn Design by Sarah Anderson, and it contains valuable information about how to knit tons of different yarns. Like, I have not put in a note where the cable ply is, and I also don't want to give away too much because here it is. Here is the basic 4-ply cable. I will just show it really quickly and a bit far away. So it shows you how to spin the singles and how to ply them together, in which way to get what kind of yarn. It is I very much recommend this book. So what a cable is, in my own words, you make a 2-ply and you ply it with double the twist, so that your 2-ply is as overplied or has so much twist in it as if it would be still a single. And then you take that 2-ply and ply it back on itself or again, so that it becomes a 4-ply. And I have done the first half of that yarn. I have finished already, so I can show you my cable. I have to remove the cat here. So this is how it looks like, the cable yarn. The reason why I chose to do this yarn is because apparently it shall make for much sturdier socks. So she talks a lot about spinning yarn for socks in that book, but this cable ply is the one that she recommends the most. And now you're gonna ask yourself, why did you not finish that? You are halfway done, why did you not finish it? Because if you look at the original colors and you look at the yarn, you will see that they're not the same anymore. So originally the colors were really beautiful, vibrant and bright, and then I had quite a lot of twist in that cable ply yarn, so that I thought I would need to maybe heat it a bit in order to get the twist set. So I put it on the stove and I turned the heat on and I walked away. And at some point my boyfriend said, "What are you doing with that yarn on the stove?" I'm like, no, I completely forgot it, and it was boiling like crazy, and I guess there was still some excess dye in the fibers after dyeing, and probably the heat was enough to reset this dye. So all the colors are now much more muted than they were in the beginning. I still like it, I think it's still cool, but when I do the second one, either I have to do the same boiling thing, or I have to live with it that I have two different 50-gram skeins. And either then I do them striped, or I have two different socks, or I don't know. But I think I will pick that up again and I will put it on my wheel. to make this cable plying because it's actually quite a lot of fun. So the next thing I would like to talk about is dyeing yarn, yay! I have shown you the yarn for the giveaway already, and I told you that I didn't have any other yarn to dye at the moment where I dyed this one. So in the meantime, the conditions have changed. Yesterday the mailman came and brought me a big box of undyed yarns that I ordered from a Swiss spinning mill, which is a family-run small business, and they do an amazing job at sourcing materials that are ecologically friendly and organic, and they just sell beautiful things, and they are in a very beautiful place in the mountains. I think I want to go and visit them at some point this spring. So the first base that I got is a sock yarn. It is 100 grams and 420 meters. It is a beautiful 75% merino and 25% nylon, superwash merino, so it's suitable for socks. And yeah, in this stage here it is still a little fresh from the mill, so this is not really washed yet or anything. You can see maybe that it looks a bit rustic, but I have washed one already, and afterwards it gets very fluffy and nice, and it has a beautiful sheep smell also. And this other base that I got is just heavenly. This is a DK weight yarn. It has 240 meters on 100 grams. It is 19.5 micron fine merino wool, so you can imagine how soft that is. And this is not all. This yarn is completely organic merino wool that is sourced in Europe, in Italy I think, and it is the whole process is certified, blue sign certified. So that means in the superwash treatment of this yarn, the use of chemicals is strongly regulated, and the process is not as harmful as the regular superwash process. So it is an organic, ecologically friendly, super soft merino wool from Europe, and I really love it. I think it's amazing. I can't wait to dye this up and see how it turns out. So one of them I have actually already dyed up, and this is one of the sock yarns, and it is still a bit damp because I dyed it yesterday. So I'll try to show it to you like this. It is... So this is the one I have dyed up already. I have just played a bit with the colors in the pot, and this is how it turned out. I have not skinned it up yet because it is still a bit damp, because I just dyed it yesterday. So I think it looks really cool. There's some burgundy, some turquoise, some olive green, some teal, some grey. There is a bit of everything in here. It's just a wild mix. Let's wrap it around my hand. Yep, that's it. And this little baby, I am planning to use this as a giveaway prize on Instagram, because there I am also quite close to having 500 followers, and as soon as there will be 500 followers, I will give this one away on Instagram. So keep an eye out for that. Also, I have been thinking about, because I got this much yarn for dyeing, oops, I have been thinking about the dyeing a bit more, and I have been using acid dyes already for a couple of years in my kitchen, but I have always used the ones of Ashford. Ashford does not tell you which ingredients they have in, maybe because all of their chemicals are not classified as hazardous materials, so they don't need to specify them. However, in in the jacquard acid dyes, you can find safety data sheets for those dyes. And there, if there is a hazardous compound inside, it also shows you which one it is. So they only need to specify which compound is in their mix if it is a hazardous compound. And with jacquard, the toxicity and the hazard potential, maybe? Hazardicity? Hazard potential of a acid dye, it depends very strongly, it changes very strongly from dye to dye. So the primaries, which I am mainly using for my purposes, the primaries are turquoise, brilliant blue, cherry red, fire red, yellow sun, bright yellow, and jet black. So the only color among the primaries which I found to be a serious eye irritant is the jet black, and the jet black is the only one that has a GHS symbol of this exclamation mark that I can pop in here. The other ones don't have any GHS symbols, which makes them among lab chemicals rather safe chemicals, but still most of you are not working in a lab, most of you don't have chemical training, and so you should treat them with respect and not like food coloring and not like watercolors that you use together with your children. You should always keep your children and your pets away from the dyes. The ones, apart from jet black, that are not hazardous for the human are dangerous to the aquatic life, and this means you should never pour your colored solutions into the drain. Don't do that. Just toss in some other undyed yarn and let it soak up. This is the beauty of acid dyes. You can really exhaust the dye bath fully. You can get out all the color of it and avoid any contamination of the environment with your acid dye. My cat wants to come in. Look who I have here. She was out in the sun. This is my delicious little girl, Lila. So while Lila is here, maybe I would like to talk a little bit about some other podcasters that I have very much enjoyed interacting with this week, or these couple of weeks. Let me start over. The first podcast that I would like to mention is Becky from the Stringing It Together podcast. She has reached out to me on Instagram and has left such a sweet comment for me that was so amazing, and when I checked her videos out I was just blown away. She is an opera singer, and you can also hear that in the way she speaks. She has a very beautiful way to express herself and a very beautiful voice. It's very nice to listen to her. She has a beautiful taste in color and projects, and she's just very lovely. I think you should totally go and check her out. Oh, and another thing about Becky, she has published 2 patterns. It's a hat and a shawl on Ravelry. And this weekend, in order to celebrate the Edinburgh Yarn Festival where she's going, hi to everyone who is going, I wish I could be with you. In order to celebrate that, Becky has offered a 50% reduction to her 2 patterns on Ravelry, which are quite cool ones, so you should go and check that out. Because not only are you getting it super cheap, you're also supporting her yarn purchases. The next podcast that I would like to mention is the 2 Tangled Skeins with Lynn, Selma and Sue. When I found their podcast, there was only Lynn, that episode that I watched, only Lynn was presenting, and she is so funny. She is really funny. She has such a direct and honest, immediate way of interacting. It's really cool to watch them. So I recommend that you go and check them out as well. Another one that I have discovered because he reached out to me is Pau Knits with Pau from Barcelona. He is a male podcaster and he has also a very beautiful taste in the things that he's making. He showed some beautiful pictures of Barcelona, or I think one it was, from where he lives, which is pretty amazing. Yeah, I think he is a very charming guy that is worth watching. And finally, I have discovered another podcast just yesterday. I have only watched one episode of hers, and this is Taylor from the Wool Needle Hands podcast. She is quite new, just like me, and Pau also, by the way. We are all kind of the club of the 2017 podcasters, I guess. And her videos are so professional. She uses a very beautiful background and she edits it in a really nice way. I think she must have learned that somehow, and if not, then she's really gifted at doing it. So it's really very nice to watch that podcast, and I have to check out her other videos because I'm really curious about the other things she's doing. Oh yeah, and she has also just recently started dyeing yarn, and she's just so talented. You have to see that. Go check out the Wool Needles and Hands podcast. With this, we are coming to the end of this episode. Thank you so much for watching, if you are still with us. And please come over, join the Ravelry group, and enter for a chance to win these two beauties. And also, check out my Instagram, where soon there is also going to be a giveaway when we reach 500 subscribers. Alright, if you have any comments about this episode, about the topics that I talked about, come to the Ravelry group and enter them there in the thread of this episode. Let's have a chat and a discussion. And yeah, thank you very much and have a beautiful time. Bye!